Hello everyone. Today we are embarking on the journey of learning non-linear editing through Adobe Premiere Pro. This is the lesson 1, interface and layout. Okay, before we comment on the lesson, please ensure you have sufficient storage space in your laptop or desktop. This is how you can check. For Mac users, go to the Apple icon about this Mac and go to storage. Okay, for PC users, you have to check on your C drive and check what is the available spaces that you have. You should set aside at least 100 gig of free space for non-linear editing, and it is also advisable to acquire a portable 500 gig solid state drive to store your data if you have. Okay, next, make sure you have downloaded the work files for Premiere Pro. So I've already organized them in folders with audio footage or audio soundtrack and video footages. Click here and check that you have the two software, which is Premiere Pro and Media Encoder. So let's launch Premiere Pro. Under the Home tab, all right, you'll see a recent tab over here. It'll display a list of projects that you have created before. And if you click on Start First Tutorial, it will launch what we call a Get Started project, which is a step-by-step guide on using Premiere Pro. Next, on the Learn tab, you can see quick tutorials. All right, let's start by clicking a new project. Okay, so this is the screen that you will see. Let's name the title of the project name as Lesson 1. So by default, the location is over here, which is user's name, followed by Documents, Adobe Premiere Pro, and then 14. It's in the 14 version. So it is a good practice to reassign new locations for your project to better manage your assets. All right, so I would to select under browse, I will point it to the folder that you guys have downloaded and I'll place it under lesson 1. Okay, so I'll put my project folder close to the assets. Next would be under General tab, you see video rendering and playback. For Mac users, please ensure that you have selected Metal. While PC users, if you are on the NVIDIA graphics card, please select OpenCL. And for some unsupported graphics card, your option is limited to Mercury Playback Engine software only. So for mine is actually under Metal. Okay, next would be Scratch this. This will give you an overall available free space over here, and you can leave all this as default. Okay, next would be the Ingest settings. Under this tab is designed to bring both the assets into the project and for proxy versions of your footage used to make editing faster. So we'll explore this function in the later lessons. I hope this information has been helpful so far. Let's click OK to continue. Okay, by default, you will see the learning workspace, which is over here. Before I go into the workspace, we need to touch on a little bit on the preferences. Go to Premiere Pro under Preferences. For PC users, you need to go to Edit, under Edit Preferences. We'll jump into the audio hardware. Under the audio hardware, you will be able to define your default input. Okay, by default, it's a system default. So if you're using a Bluetooth, you can indicate the Bluetooth, or you're using Zoom audio device, you can select. Same applies for the default output. Okay, by default, your media cache management is do not delete cache files automatically. I suggest that you let them manage automatically by specify a value. Select automatically, delete oldest cache files when it exceeds, for example, 10 gig, or if you are running out of space, you can put as 5 gig. Next one is under memory, optimize rendering for performance. After that, you can press OK. I'll go into the workspaces. Workspaces are basically a preset of all common panel, tools, and window for a particular task to aid in your productivity. So under assembly, they already predefine certain panels for you, under editing as well, and so on. Some of the common workspaces that you'll be using in this module are editing, color, audio, and graphics. So I'll stick to editing now. Let's jump into the project panel first. All right, in order to visualize how the assets or how the panel works, I need to import some of the work files. All right, how do we import? There are a few ways. You can double click, it'll call up the Finder window, or you can go to File, look for Import, they'll do the same thing. And I'm going to select the folder itself. You have an option to select just the file or the folder. Okay, using your Command key, multi-select, or using your Control key in PC, multi-select, then you import. Once that is done, you can see the folders are labeled as yellow, and you can expand to drop down to see what is inside the folder. Under the project panel itself, you have option to change it. This is the list view. You can have option to change to icon view. Back to list view. So if you think that this is a bit too small to view, you can press a tilde key, which is next to keyboard 1, is on the left hand side of 1. you press it down. But before you press it down, please ensure that your project panel is active. That means it must have a blue border. Once you press it down, you should be able to see it being expanded. Then you can drop down, expand the video. You can see these files. You have an option of icon view, freeform view. That means you can move around. Okay, back to list view. You can size the thumbnails. And over here, you can create new bin. So this is new bin. I'm going to undo. Command Z or Control Z to undo. Or you can create a new item here. These are the available items that you can create. Or you can delete here as well. I'm going to create a new bin. So selecting the bin, I can click on the trash to clear or delete. Next, I want to introduce is the media browser. Okay, media browser is where you browse assets through Premiere Pro. You can also import from here. So how do we do that? So previously, I have already assigned a favorite. So I'm going to say remove my favorite. I can navigate through the hard drive, look for users, look under the user's name. So mine resides in movies. And then this is a folder that I'm looking at. Again, I can choose, I have an option to choose view, list view, thumbnail view, and I can resize it accordingly. So once I selected this folder, I can right click and add to favorites. So it appears under favorites. So I don't have to go through the hassle of navigating downwards. I can jump over here, double click, and I can see my assets here. So under the assets here, I can quickly browse by scrubbing through. Okay, I can easily scrub through. So that's how we can use the media browser. And to import from here, I'll right click, I can import from here. Okay, next is libraries. Okay, whereby you can create libraries or templates, etc. Info is where it will display all the information. Currently it's empty because nothing has been selected. Under the project panel, you can see more info here. Under effects, you can select the effects, video effects or audio effects or audio transition or video transition. Markers is where you go through and sort out the markers. You can pre-select, redefine the colors. And of course, history. These are all the actions that has been done. If you are familiar with Illustrator or Photoshop, these are something that you will see. I'm going to jump back to the project panel. Okay, let's say I pre-select this. Let's go to info. I can see some info here. Video is 23.98 frames and it is a full HD 1280 by 720. Audio is as such. Coming back to the project panel, these are useful information over here. And I want you guys to take a good look at this. All the video assets with audio will be labeled as blue. Only video assets without audio is in purple. And for video assets with audio, they will have two icons. One is a strip, a film strip. The other one is an audio waveform. Whereas for video is only just the film strip. How about audio? Audio will be in green label and they will have an audio waveform. Few things to note here that you must understand is after the name of the video, you must know what is the frame rate, which is over here. And next one is the media duration, how long it is. Like for this is 29 seconds. If you look at the Nike Find Your Greatness, it is actually a 23.98 frame per second. It has a duration of 15 seconds, 29 frame. It has a video info of high definition, 1280 by 720. And you can see the difference. Some are 4K. This is cinematic 4K, 4096 by 2160. Full high definition, 1920 by 1080p. And followed by 4K, 3840 by 2160. Next to it is your toolbar, whereby you can select all the different tools to help you with trimming. Next to the toolbar is the timeline. Okay, do note we are under editing workspace. You must be in the same workspace. So how do we quickly create a sequence here? Okay, remember your artboard in Illustrator. So basically a sequence is like an artboard whereby you set the parameters of the artboard, like for example, A4, A3, etc. Then you bring in your assets in, which are your graphic elements or typography. So in video terms, we are bringing video assets, graphics, images, or audio. So you need to predefine what is the space here. So now I'm going to quickly demonstrate how you can create a sequence quickly. All you need to do is select one of the video files here, drag over. They'll base on this reference and create what we call a sequence for you. And do note that if you have done that, you see a new icon coming up. This icon is to signify this is the sequence, or what we call an artboard in Illustrator. By pressing spacebar, this is the playhead, by the way. This is the playhead. Okay, when I play,
it's easy to think greatness is only something.
You can see this. This is called a VU meter. All right. So this is called a volume unit meter. Is where you monitor the volume of the audio. So now, in order to preview your videos, you can double click on the video footage. It will appear on your source monitor. So under your source monitor, these are the control panels to let you play, stop, or move forward, or do a mark-in, mark-out. So how do we add on extra buttons? You can see some extra buttons here. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the button editor. I'm going to reset. This is a common one that you will see here. So click on the button editor. Save margins is important. Toggle proxies. Loop playback is important as well. To play, you can press spacebar or you can press play here.
It's easy to think.
Okay, you can also scrub through. Okay, this is to display the video on screen. You can do fit or you can zoom by percentage, right? Next one is the playback resolution. If you think that it is slowing down the system, you can choose to half or quarter. So when you choose a quarter, there's some pixelation. Okay, so I can choose to full. The source monitor is really helpful when we want to do some marking or so-called trimming. You can trim over here by marking in, browse through, mark out, and you can easily drag and drop into your timeline. Okay, so this has been trimmed. Undo. And if you decided not to trim this way, there's another option. I'm going to right click, clear in and out. Of course, I can drag and drop, right? Another way to trim is on the timeline, but I suggest not to because sometimes it can be quite tedious when you have a lot of clips. You can use this selection tool. Can you see this gray top triangle? The gray top triangle at the end here is to define that the clip is at its end of the clip. The gray triangle on top here is to define that this is the starting of the clip. So it's starting at the 0 point. And when I mouse over using the selection tool, you can see this bracket coming up. This is to trim. This is to extend. Trim and then extend. I would suggest that you trim it over at the source monitor and drag it down. So next thing is when you are on the source monitor, you have an option. Okay, let's say I have trim here. I have an option to just drag just the video or the audio to the timeline by dragging onto the icon here. This is a frame strip. This is just the video and this is just the audio. Okay, you have an option to do that. If I were to drag this onto the timeline with the playhead on the video clip, when I go to effects control, over here is where I can control the motion, which we'll touch on the next lesson. There's a lot of things can be controlled here. And then next one I'm going to introduce is the audio clip mixer. This is whereby you can control every single channel of the audio here. And then the last one would be metadata. Let's quickly bring in another clip. For example, say mountains in Europe. Okay, so again, I'm going to do some quick mark-in, mark-out and drag it down. So what you see here is the source, as I mentioned. Now I'm going to introduce to you the program monitor. Okay, under the program monitor, again, I have the button editor here. Okay, I can pre-select those that I want. I'm going to reset now. I will select for the most commonly useful ones. Loop playback, save margins, show guides, and toggle proxies. Once I have the guides, This is good for typography placement, or even sometimes you want to align certain clips. So from here, if I were to scrub through on the timeline, you'll see that the assembly has been shown on the program monitor. Okay, you can also scrub through on the program monitor itself to see the effect. Either or, you can do this or you can do this. So that sums up most of the layout. All right, if you were to go through different workspaces now, you'll notice that it is slightly different. What if I messed up the panels? I have an option to put in the center, to the left, top, or on the header, to the side, or to the edge. You don't have to worry to place them back in order. You can go to Window, Workspaces, Reset to save layout. That's all, folks. I hope this short introduction of the interface and layout have been helpful. Now it's your turn to explore. Try by importing the videos that I have created in that lesson 1 folder. See you guys in lesson 2.